Founders, welcome back to the 0 to 5,000 podcast, where we obsess over the convergence of human potential and business results. Today, our hosts Drew McClure and Jordan Mitchell have another insightful conversation for you. So let's jump right in.
All right, founders, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are joined by Robin Alex, co-founder of GoHighLevel, a software company that is serving businesses worldwide. And they grew it from nothing to 1,500 employees, serving over 70,000 businesses across the world. And one of those businesses is mine. We've been using his product for at least 2 years. And when I saw that he was on our list to interview, I got personally excited because it has transformed our business. It has saved us so much of headache and even given us innovation capability that we did not have before. And so today, to tell us about his story and how he grew this business is Robin himself. So Robin, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Yes, sir. All right. So I know your company a little bit now, but I have no clue where this came from. How did GoHighLevel get started?
Yeah, I mean, the fun part about it, it was all luck. Um, so I guess 6 years ago is when we started. And previous to GoHighLevel, I was actually running a marketing agency. And the way that I started the marketing agency was building websites and, picking up development jobs. And you run into the problem of feast and famine. You pick up a big client, you start working through it, you make a little bit of money, and then from there you get into scope creep. You don't realize it. It starts beating you up, and then finally you close a project, and then you're looking around saying, "Where's my next one? What do I got to do?" And then you're fighting to get your next project. And over time, I just couldn't really scale that. It was just a one-man shop. And then I decided to make a change in saying, how do I get as close as I can to the revenue line? How do I actually help businesses grow? Because if I can build a partnership with them, they'll keep me on retainer, and it makes it more of a scalable business. And so we quickly evolved into becoming more of a traditional agency in the lens of doing advertising. So helping with SEO, lead generation, Facebook ads, Google ads, and really driving as much interest to small businesses as possible. And we grew it to a great size. We had about, I think it's pretty close to 200 customers, 30 employees around the world, and we were doing okay. Now, the problem that we ran into was as fast as we were bringing on customers and in our minds providing them success, the customers were leaving us. And so it was like this weird cycle that we were in. And it wasn't a great cycle uh, because the reason that customers were leaving was that we were providing them leads and opportunities and all these great people that were interested, but the business owners didn't know how to actually close them or even pick up the phone to call them, right? If you work with a dentist, they're always going to opt to being a dentist. They don't want to have to pick up the phone or teach their team how to pick up the phone and call somebody who might be interested and try to convince them to come in. They feel like that should always happen. That's more of an inbound motion. And so I'll say for me personally, I was hitting a crossroads of, do we continue, doubling down on our sales, knowing that this is life and let's continue selling more? Or let's really dive in and really understand what's going on there. And can we help them from a consultative perspective? And so, I went down the harder path of trying to figure out how to help these businesses because I needed them to win. And knowing that our team was working incredibly hard and doing great things, it's how do we compound that with just doing a little bit more so that business actually wins? Because at the end of the day, when you're paying a marketing agency, as much as you say you want to do all the fancy stuff, if you're not putting money into their pocket, they're quitting.
Yep.
And so we went down that path and we ended up getting very technical. We started gluing about 15 to 20 different pieces of software and using Zapier and APIs and all these different things to really round out a full turnkey solution for small businesses. And it worked incredibly well. But we ended up having to hire a whole, couple of individuals where their whole job was just managing the tech for all these different systems. And then, a couple of months later, we down with my team and we went on the whiteboard and kind of mapped out like what would a perfect software look like. And we drew it out. And I remember at that point, we all stood back and looked at this masterful piece on the wall on our whiteboard, like, wow, all right, we got to get back to work because this is a fun little exercise. Let's get back to normal day to day, dude. And it was sitting on the whiteboard for about 3 or 4 months. And we didn't do anything. And the crazy thing was I had a customer that called me out of the blue saying, hey, I got prospected by another software company. They just launched. They're doing reputation management, some other tools. Can you talk to them because they're asking me for logins and passwords? And look, I do what I do, but I don't know what you do, and I don't keep the passwords. That's what you guys are for. Can you call them? So I called them and gave them the passwords. We got everything set up. And then I was like, well, tell me more about what you guys are offering. What are you guys doing? And we just kept the conversation going. And then, I was a crazy guy. I was like, hey, hold on one second. I got a crazy, thing that I'm working on. Went to the conference room, took pictures of it, brought it up on Zoom and showed it to them on that same call. And they gave me the weirdest response. They're like, this is interesting. Give us a couple of days. We'll call you back. And in my mind, it's like, I don't know who's on the other line. It could be Megacorp for all I know.
Yeah.
You're just talking to some product manager or an account manager or someone like that. And they just needed to find a reason to get me off the phone. So they're like, we'll call you back. And, I wasn't even expecting a call. But the crazy thing was 2 or 3 days later, I got a call from now my co-founder, Sean Clark, who called me at 8 a.m. Central Time as I was driving to the office saying, hey, dude, can you get on a Zoom call? And I was like, well, first off, who is this again? Like, remind me, what were we even talking about? And he got me caught up. And I basically told him, I was like, yeah, give me about 20 minutes. Let me get into the office and, let's jump on and look at it. Of course, I get to the office and, go get my coffee, started talking to team members and stuff, and just got into my daily, rhythm and forgot to call them. We're having our team meeting. And I remember, like being in the conference room and we're talking and he calls me again and I ignore it. Calls me again. It's like, well, let me take this call. He's like, hey, you promised me you're going to call. And so I was like, oh, all right, let me do it. I'm being a bad person here. Let me go get on a Zoom call. Get on a Zoom call, and Sean and Varun, the other co-founder, basically like took a lot of the schematics and took their existing application, reconfigured it into kind of what high level 1.0 was, and looked at it and said, this is amazing. Let's go test it out. So we implemented it for not only the co-customer that we had, I just started implementing it to even more customers as a test sample to see what it looked like. And we found incredible success with it. And I basically went back to him and was like, oh my gosh, this is going to change my world. Not only can I reduce, the labor inefficiencies that we have, it's finding success to customers. This is the missing link. And, I was like, I want to buy it for all of my customers. Let's make a deal. And then I just felt so enriched by what they had delivered. I basically said, how can I help you guys? Can I get you in front of other people? Because I knew this was new. No one else has this and I needed to get out to the world. They were like, yeah, whatever, sure, go for it. And I ended up calling a lot of contacts that I know in the marketing scene and got them all interested into it. And basically we offered them kind of this lifetime deal, like, hey, try it out, let us know, give us feedback. And if you like it, you can pay us at the end. If not, no harm, no foul. Go walk away. Everybody that I called loved it. One of them uh, actually sold their agency and became a consultant, like a business coach, and said this software, if he had it, would have revolutionized his business. And he basically said, I'm now starting this conference or this not a webinar, in-person event for about 20 people in person and 20 people virtually. I'd love for you guys to speak. So Sean and Sean and I ended up flying to San Diego, literally on the plane. I'm creating landing pages, creating a sales page and everything. We get there. It's the first time I meet Sean in person. Varun, who's on the other side of the world, is in Qatar. He dials in remotely on Zoom and it's our slot. So we stand up, we do our pitch, not even a pitch. We just do a demo of the software. 15 minutes, we're done. Room was silent. And we're like, I guess that's it. Let's go sit down. So we shimmy down to our seats and they're like, no, come back up. We have questions. And just out of nowhere, people just started asking us questions. And then they're like, well, how do we buy? We flash the website and people are like, oh, can you add, do you offer an annual package? Do you offer these other things? And we just looked at each other and like, yes, we do. And so I get on my computer, I start making changes and like, guys, it's active. You can buy it. And Varun, who's virtually dialing in, there's a picture of us two at this place and the TV's in between and he's just smiling. And what people didn't realize is as these orders came in, while he's smiling, acting like he's just listening into the call, he's actually typing away. As these new submissions come in, he's manually creating accounts because it's such a new product. We never even built that part of it. And so he's like manually sending out emails. And we had actually sold 39 out of the 40 people in that room. Wow. And number 40 came in 2 weeks later. And so that was 6 years ago. And then, from that point on, we've been growing through word of mouth. And now we're at, close to 70,000 customers, which represents about, 3 million small businesses around the world. And, just keeping our heads down and keep going. I mean, we love what we do and we're just going to keep doing it for as long as we can.
That is nuts. Okay. So this is a logistical question that I'm, I'm just curious about. You and your team come up with the idea. You share it with somebody on the phone that represents another business that you've never met before. Two questions. One, were you worried about sharing your idea with somebody else and them just taking it and keeping it for themselves? Two,
Uh,
when they do collaborate and you guys get to this point, the three of you are kind of in this, we're doing this thing. Who owns it at that point of the story? Like, how are y'all even thinking about the product at this point?
I've always been a value driven person, and I've never been a person of holding things back or trying to keep things secretive. If it's something that I can't do, I'll tell everybody else around it because maybe they have the resources and really bandwidth and time. That's the hardest thing. The most expensive thing for any entrepreneur is their time. And I just didn't have it. It's not that I have a development background, so I can build these things. I don't enjoy it. So, from a passionate perspective, it would just take me longer. In that moment when I told him the idea, it was just more in the sense of, hey, I have this crazy idea. What would it take to build? Like I was just trying to get some free advice, talk
Yeah.
to these people or connect with this individual. You should bring this individual on. But the fact that they took it on from there, I was actually excited. Someone took this masterful piece and took it on from there. In the aspect of ownership, there is the side of, from a business perspective of who owns the code and things like that. For me, I didn't really care. They were solving a bigger problem in the moment
Yeah.
for my customers, right? My main revenue source is this, my customers, my service and delivery. Sure, if somebody has the code, that's one thing. But if no one knows about it and no one can use it and no one can get out to the world, it's meaningless, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no value to it. So I never thought of it being a big deal, but I was just so, thrilled that they solved my problem. I wanted to help them. I always look at it as it has to be a win-win situation. They didn't ask for any money. They didn't charge me for anything. And so I was just like, I got to do something for it. And then, I just started traveling around the world only in the sense of I just enjoyed it and helped. I never personally never asked for money. I just, spent everything out of my own pocket. And then, probably a
Really?
year or two. Yeah. So after a year or two later, Sean Vern kind of pulled me aside as like, dude, like we need you like officially on paper. You are a co-founder. You helped start the company and everything, and it was a great moment. But it wasn't anything that I was directly chasing. It was just I just enjoyed what I did. Right, I had the agency. It was growing. It was finally self-sustainable because of the software, and then I just get to talk to people about how the software helped me. So then it's like, let me show you how it can help you. That was the best part of my day. So why would I want to stop that? And sure, I wasn't really getting compensated for it, but I was doing okay. Um, and luckily I had a wife that's supportive and things like that. And we just kept going from there. And it was a great moment when it was officialized, but that's how we started.
Wow. So you were selling for them for, I mean, now selling for yourself for a year or two with no compensation.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it, dude. I love that. I love that approach.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I've always been the believer, and even on my agency, right? I've always been the person of I'm going to give you value so much so that you feel obligated to have to pay me. Not that
yeah.
me asking you, but I just did such a good job that you feel like I got to do something for this guy, right?
Yeah.
And that's just been my mentality. And it's not that instinct or I don't force think that. It's just innate in me of like how I operate. Is I just
Where'd
want you
that
to have
come
that
from?
smile. I think it's definitely instilled from my parents. I mean, it's always just do good in the world, and when you do good in the world, things will come back to you threefold. And and I think it's just so baked into my ethos that I don't even think about it, but that's just how I operate.
Wow. I love that. All right. So they were working for a different company. You were running your
Well,
own.
actually, they were starting this company. I mean, it's their software company that they actually
Oh,
started with. They were trying to launch a new software, and they couldn't really keep customers. I think by the time I met them, they had 10 customers, and they were about to lose all of them because they could not get to success. And so after we met is where we started all getting traction in regards to the software.
okay. That makes sense. And so what did you end up doing with the marketing agency?
We ended up taking all the IP and all the team members and actually merging them all within high level.
Huh.
because we were growing so fast, we needed expertise in many different areas. And the agencies, team members that we had all understood marketing. They all understood automation. They were using the software. They were one of the first users on the software. So it was like a perfect slide in to help continue building high level as a team.
Holy crap, dude. You were the golden goose that they stumbled upon. Literally.
You know, I don't look at it that way. I kind of look at it as it was just,
Well, you're
it
humble,
was,
but I'm an outside perspective and I'm not downplaying their role. Like they had the initiative to go create the thing, all that kind of stuff. But they walk into somebody that has this idea that they didn't have, build it out, who goes and sells for them for 2 years, and then brings 35 employees into their business to help grow it. Like that is such a cool, serendipitous kind of meeting of the three of you.
yeah, I think it's more serendipitous more than anything. It was just the right time, the right place, and it just all made sense. All in the moment. There was no foresight. There was no, intentional moves of trying to angle for one way or the other. It just naturally happened. And, you know, I'll be the first to say I have the two best co-founders out there, and we do have something special between us three. And, we figured out how to make it work. And it's very confusing for a lot of people when they hear about our journey and how we did it and even how we operate the company. Like it just doesn't make sense. And, but it makes sense for us. And that's all that matters.
Well, let's talk about that some. Tell me a little bit about the dynamic of the three of you and even maybe just some ways you guys are doing business differently than most people would.
Yeah, I mean, most people think that you need to have a traditional CEO, COO, and CTO, and like you have to lean into the title. And for us, we've always looked at it as everybody has their stroke of genius. They have those moments where they, when they want to be in a theta mode or kind of be the visionary. But then at the same time, it's you can't be the visionary nonstop. It is extremely hard for people, like just constantly being on. But there's times where you want to roll your sleeves up and just get into kind of the operating side of things and really execute and things like that. And so we've kind of always looked at it as us three, we should always be in the know of everything that's going on. Everyone has kind of their skills and weaknesses, of course, but it's our job to kind of, there's always problems. It's whoever's the most free, even if you're good at bad, just try to put your body on top of that landmine and try to contain it and then bring the others in and we can all solve it together. Or, let's switch it around and all that. But we're very much lock and step there. And where I've seen people go wrong is they try to feel like you need to create these definitive boundaries. And it's almost like don't encroach into my world.
Yeah.
For us, it's I'm
Silos.
only in, yeah, exactly. And for us, it's if you encroach into my world, I know that you have the best interest of picking up my weakness because I can't do everything. And then vice versa, right? Like everyone else should also be open arms of like, let me jump into it. And, when you do have those strenuous moments of like, no, this is my thing, let me capture it. Like you just have to be vocal about it. And we're all definitely passionate. So I don't want everyone to think like, oh, it's just, greatness all the time, with the relationship and stuff. I mean, we do have our stressful moments, but we never look at it from an ego perspective or take it personally. It's we're all here to win it. And so when someone's passionate about it, it's ooh, that they're really interested in this. They want to win at this. So I need to back off and just support them from there. So that's one of those unique things that we have between us three.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. So from selling your first 40 people to 70,000 customers, I like to think, and if your brain doesn't work this way, this is totally fine. I like to think about like chapters in that journey or phases, If you just, without overthinking it, what kind of phases from first 40 customers to where you are now do you think you all went through as an organization?
And so when we started the company, Sean Vern and I would get on to every single call for every single customer and just continue to focus on that mentality. I just need to get you to where you're happy. Like I need to do whatever I can by anything possible to get on a Zoom call. And can I work to where you just kind of have a smile on your face? Like, thank you. This is what I was looking for. And when we saw that, we would always ask, do you know two other people that would be interested in the software? Because birds
Hmm.
of a feather flock together. And at that point, for me personally, I was hedging that you would at least give me one person. And a lot of times people gave us two contacts and stuff. And then I would just say, well, what's our contact? Can you do an email introduction? And then we just started getting a little bit more confident, like, hey, is that person online right now?
Hmm.
Do you think you can just invite them to the Zoom call? And you'd be surprised how many people, birds of a feather flock together, that they're all online, they all in the same communities and stuff. And they would just invite them into the call. And then they would kind of bow out of the call and we would just keep the conversation going and do a demo with the next person, get them onboarded and get them going and things like that. So that was one of the big things. And once we got to about 500 customers at that point, the first person that we kind of relieved from doing it was Varun, because our development was starting to get so hectic that we needed him to just kind of think about that and continue developing it and build that team. I stayed on till about 5 or 6 thousand customers and doing the onboarding, and then from there it was like, wow, we're starting to bring on a lot of customers. So let me help operationalize it. And Sean, he's like the most social out of us three, kept going until about 11, 12,000 customers. And so he has really strong relationships with a good portion of our customer base because of that. But it was always important for us, and it still is today, for us to stay close to your customers and really hear the problems and challenges of what they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Also in relation to what are the challenges they're having with the software, and hearing it and experiencing it with them goes a long way. Many
Yeah.
other applications, businesses, and things like that, it's like, well, my team member heard from a customer who heard from somebody else that there's this problem. Well, the problem is, it's once you hear that there's a problem and you're trying to find the solution, you got to go chase 5 degrees away to hear it from the source's mouth on here's the problem, and working with them to find the solution is very challenging. And
Mm.
so most businesses are now guessing at what the solution should be. And so for us, it's always been a part of our core mission of like, how do we get everybody in our company to be available and jump on a Zoom call, down to being on the development team, down to being even a finance team or whatever, talk to the customer and really understand what the problem is and build a solution with them.
Has it been challenging on the practical side of that when you have that many customers to be able to keep that direct line of communication open?
100%. But it doesn't come from the customer side. Where it really comes, well, I'll say 90% of the time it's not a problem on the customer side. I think there's a small percentage of customers just have this expectation. That's a false belief that everything should be perfect. And they don't want to talk to anyone because it's like, you shouldn't have to talk to me. It should just work out of the gate.
Yeah.
And for us, it's like, we know we're not perfect. We're always trying to learn and trying to improve. So we need that conversation. So that's always been challenging for that 10%. On our side, as we've grown, we've had about we'll end the year a little over 1,500 team members, and as fast as we're bringing team members on, people come in with baggage. People come in with expectations that they built from other organizations and other teams, and in many cases, you're supposed to be in the ivory tower working for the company, and you look down on your customers,
Mm.
and you're not supposed to talk to the customers directly. So we're having to re-educate them, realign them into this is kind of the high level way. So you do need to talk to customers. And so it's definitely a muscle that we have to help coach and help build for our team members to feel comfortable. And it's okay not to know.
Mm.
Um, just jump on a Zoom call and show your face. Like there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually positive. So as we've grown, it has become challenging from that perspective of we're bringing in so many people with different backgrounds.
Yeah. Which I want to talk about that for a little bit because you're going to have a unique perspective. Having 1,500 people is just a crap ton of employees. And so
Yeah.
it's a really big sample size of being able to observe maybe cultural or current moment phenomena of employees today, or, where they came from. And so you mentioned some of the learning or unlearning of certain ways that has had to happen as they've joined your workforce. What else have you observed, or maybe positive or negative? That's not even the right phrase, but just like, what have you learned being able to work with and observe current day in this
Yeah. Uh,
economy, way of working? What are we learning about
Yeah. I
people
think
today?
as we've gotten bigger, you're bringing in people with many different backgrounds. And some of the team member that's been around for a long time, as we've grown, you start building these like false perceptional mindset points, right? Like, well, you see, now that we're at this size, we have to start operating different, or we have to start changing our processes and systems. But when you break it down, a lot of times that's all incorrect, right?
Mm.
Like, if you continue to figure out ways to operate as you did from the beginning. Now, you can always make efficiency changes and improve it and make it stronger and better. But to fundamentally say, let's wipe the board and start over because we're now this size, or we're doing this much in revenue, or we have this many customers, that's where we actually see breakdowns. Because what you're basically saying is what you did that got you here has been wrong the whole time.
Ah,
And that mindset actually causes more problems on the stream because you can't afford mistakes and you can't afford starting over. But that perceptional change actually causes more problems than helps. And so making sure that we catch people and making the wrong decisions ahead of time has been something that we're really paying attention to now at our size.
Ah, super cool. Yeah, it makes sense. The challenging, or at least inspecting and observing the conventional norms or wisdom passed along and saying, is that true? Do we need to change this? Or is it actually working just fine?
Well, so actually, there's something that's going viral right now from, I believe, Graham Lee, and he's one of the founders of the YC Combinator.
Uh-huh.
And what he's talking about is the idea of founder mode versus manager mode. And so when you're a founder, you're really close to everything and you want to be super meticulous, maniacal in many ways of how you run the business. But then when you start reading blogs, you start talking to VCs or you start talking to outside consultants and things like that. Well, they are going from operating off a textbook, right? And they're trying to build you into this mindset of running things in a manager mode. But you have to understand that you're talking to other managers who have come into their experience from either reading books or working at companies that have been forever, where there's no new innovation, no new processes and systems. And if you lean into that too hard from a mindset perspective, guess what? You're basically building ideas that your company is no longer growing. It's all about stabilizing. And so
Mm,
growth actually gets hindered there. So it's trying to figure out how do you keep a balance in many cases of that founder mode, being maniacal, innovating, trying to do better. And in many cases, being a founder means being as inefficient as possible because it's
mm.
about the outcome that you're delivering, right? By any means necessary, how do you make your customer as happy as possible? You can worry about the efficiency stuff later. But if you're getting
Uh,
the outcome, you will win. And so, but if you
Talk to me a little more
accelerate out
about
the
that. What do
well,
you mean by as inefficient as possible? That's intriguing.
well, for us, we talk about having the bias to action. As fast as you can you get something out to help a customer? And that's our mindset here, right? But now you can play on the other side of it and saying, well, you see, I know what the outcome is, but before we do that, let's predict that we might have 1,000 customers that need this. So we need to hire 30 people and we need to think about this process. And yes, we're going to hire 30 people for this initiative and the process is this, but what happens if we need to get to 100 team members? Well, let's try to build this whole strategy. And so you just kind of sit in the kitchen just ruminating on what could be and all this and there's process and systems and things like that. Well, the problem is you don't even know if any of this is right. This is all hypothetical. But guess what? With our model, as inefficient as it is, I've already figured out, is this the right thing for our customer? Is this actually working? Are we getting the outcomes that we want? And if the answer is yes, we can continue pouring gasoline on it and we can make the decision, build it as inefficient as possible because we're getting the outcome. Or we've learned a lot. Now, how do we continue doing what we're doing and just start fixing it up and just start making changes along the way? So that to me is really kind of the fundamental difference. And what's interesting is as you grow your business, you start looking for advice and immediately it's like, well, I need to streamline my business. I need to get more efficient and change my mindset. And in reality, I think that's kind of the death of your business if you lean into it instead of
Mm.
just continuing to be in that founder mode mindset.
God, that is so good. I mean, it makes me think of two things. One, there's been countless CEOs that I've worked with or talked with that their current issue is that they're bored when they didn't used to be bored. And it's very similar to what you're talking about. They
Mhm.
loved the pioneering, the disruption, the new vision they were going for. And then at some point they got to a place where they felt like their job was just to maintain and manage what they built. And that's not their personality. So they're bored, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where people go wrong. It's you've gotten bored because you've gotten stagnant. And what you haven't figured out is how do you keep doing what you're doing, but do it even harder, faster, and quicker, right? Like, how do you put more gasoline on it? And look at that as kind of the next evolution versus saying, this is the max capacity. Now I'm bored. And so I'm just going to flatline from here.
Yep.
Now, on the other side of it, I will say there's actually nothing wrong with that. Like, if you built a strong business and you are getting bored with it, there's other options that's out there. Maybe it's selling it. Maybe it's just a lifestyle business and you've got it to a size to give you opportunity to do other passionate
Yep.
items. One thing that I've been leaning on more is, why do we become entrepreneurs? It's so that we can buy time to doing the things that we're passionate about. If you're fighting to keep it, essentially your job as an entrepreneur, I think in many cases you're going on the wrong path for the long term because why are you doing it? Well,
Mm.
what do you gain out of it? So sure, you can get bored. There's opportunities to double down and do more. But at the same time, focus on your other life.
Yes, I like that. Multiple options, right?
Yeah.
One might be listening going, "Holy crap, I kind of cut the pioneer out of myself because of someone else's ideas or expectations." And they're going to feel freedom listening to this to go, "Screw that. I'm going to get back into the beast mode and start, getting that biased action again." Others might listen to it and go, "You're right, man. I'm going to replace myself as CEO and I'm going to use the benefit of building this business for me to go launch something else or engage in these hobbies." Like there's all sorts of options out there. For you, what what are you passionate about outside of business, or are you in a stage or a season where all of it's channeled into this? It's just so naturally fulfilling that besides family, maybe it's just this.
Yeah, I definitely believe that there's no such thing as balance. It's kind of where your energy goes is, and you try to build your life to fit everything in it, but some things take a priority more than others. These days, high level is definitely number one. My life definitely revolves around it in many cases, but I've been trying to make a little bit more conscious effort to also build in the family time. My kids are now, my son is 8 years old and my daughter's 3. So life is starting to get fun for them, as well as me and my wife. And as they're starting school and things like that, we're trying to make sure that we spend time with them. One of the things that kind of triggered to me is a friend of mine. He has an 8-year-old daughter, and he kind of put, "There's only 10 more summers that I have with her." And I kind of hit.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, yeah, that's true, right? 10 more years, turn 18, and they're kind of on their own in many ways. I hope they stay with me longer, want to hang out with
Right.
me over the summers, but it starts fading away. And so we're trying to make more conscious effort of like dedicated time with the kids, maybe vacations or traveling or just spending time with them. Um, and that's really, outside of high level, that's really all that I have going on.
Is there anything that you do for yourself to keep your energy at a high level, your capacity to keep from breaking down? I know that in the last 4 years, I've had more conversations than I ever imagined of people talking about burnout, whether it's themselves or employees turning over. And I'm just curious, is there anything you do for yourself personally, whether it be sleep or exercise or anything else that helps you, or has that not been even something you've had to think much about?
I have been putting a little bit more effort. I've been starting to go to the gym at 5 a.m. And trying to focus on my health. I do think, my religion and faith and I believe in God and stuff like that. But I do believe that you have a finite time on the world. Um, but knowing that there is an end date, you can try to be as comfortable as possible. So just making sure that my health is as strong, or at least my joints are good enough that I can keep walking around and not having to be in a wheelchair. Quality of life I think is super important. So I've been focusing on that. Um, but I think short of that, a lot of it is just take it as it comes. I think that's kind of the fun thing of being an entrepreneur. You kind of take that into your personal life as well, and just try to enjoy the moments and try to savor it.
Yeah. Yeah. Preach to us a little bit about that. It's a lesson I'm still literally today. I was telling some friends, like, I'm still learning to let life come to me. I still sometimes get in that, like, I got to force this. I got to figure this out. Like,
Yeah,
you know?
it's definitely tough, and you always need to have your eyes open so that when those opportunities come, that you're not missing it, right? Like you got to be able to catch it when it's there. But I do think it's sometimes it's just savoring the moment when you do hit these milestones, as little or small as it is. One thing that I'm personally bad about is documenting that moment,
Mhm.
right? Like in that moment when something hit or something, I just closed a big deal or something amazing just happened. A lot of times it's just, "Whew, let me just go sit on the couch and watch TV to veg out for a little bit and just
Yeah.
de-stress that way." But looking back, I wish it was just more in the sense of like, can I document it? Can I actually enjoy it? Can I, savor the moment? And so this is definitely a new way for me. So I don't have like a good answer, but it's something that I'm trying to pay more attention to. Like I don't have a lot of pictures of all the wins and all the growth of, me as a individual growing the business along with my partners. Or, in those moments, how do my family feel? And they're big milestones. But it's something that I'm trying to do more. And even with the kids, haven't been good about taking pictures, and now I'm like trying to force myself trying to take pictures when they have their milestones, and even better, trying to take videos because I that's
Yeah.
something that somebody else taught me. It's if you're able to take time with your kids and just record video of them and like the most randomness thing, like when they're talking to each other or when they're reading a book and they're kind of in their own world, just recording that. I'm actually catching myself in my free time of like just going through those little videos and it's like, oh, here's like a 10-second clip of them just like interacting with each other and laughing, not
Yes.
like a set stage or something like that. But trying to savor those moments, I think at the end of the day, that's all that we have is just our memories.
Absolutely, man. We have an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And still to this day, even their favorite thing to do, like if we're bored, they'll literally come and grab my phone and go, "Can I look at some videos?" And we'll go back to them at 4 years old, 3 years old, whatever, having a random moment that you're talking about. And it will often bring my wife and I to tears that we're like, holy crap, I forgot that moment, or I forgot, you know, even how they were together in that moment. And so I have thousands of photos and videos that have never made, I don't post anything online,
Yeah.
nothing.
But the fact that you have it, right? Like that's something that is a
Yeah.
true asset in many ways. That's something
Oh,
that actually
yeah.
generational, right? Like, and it's so it used to be something that was prevalent, with maybe our grandparents or great grandparents, and that's something that they hold down. I will say with the technology and phone, as easier as it is, it doesn't feel the value of it doesn't feel as strong as it once was anymore.
Correct. Oh, 100%. And it can almost be overwhelming. You've taken so much that you don't review it at all. And I don't take it every day. It's not like been a religious thing. It's just been as it occurs to me, this is a cute moment or a funny moment or whatever. We'll just flip it out and capture it. And then just scroll. We'll just scroll like, let's go back to 2016 and see what's on the photos from 2016. And even COVID, like I forgot so much stuff. COVID was such a crazy year that we go back and I found these hilarious photos and videos of my kids laying out with my wife in the backyard. And we were just trying to think of things to do to entertain ourselves. And we had like a gym. We made DIY gym in our garage and they were playing music while my wife and I were going on a run. I was like, I never would have remembered that. To me,
Yeah,
COVID was a freaking blur.
that's
Like,
awesome. Yeah, no,
but
100% right there with you, right? And that's the fun part about documenting it and trying to savor the moment because it's kind of putting a mental bookmark, right? So that when you
yes,
pick up those pictures, it's like, oh, I remember that. And I remember we did these additional things that you couldn't document. But
yes.
a lot of times we're just moving so fast and we're trying to force things that once you force it and you make it happen, you're just on to the next. And it starts getting numbing over time. And I think, coming back to like, why do we do this as entrepreneurs? What's the point? It's really to buy optionality and give us time so that we can enjoy the fruits of our labor.
Well, it's cool that you're talking about doing that with business too, because I've never thought about that. But I feel like it would be equally powerful, like you said, to document in some way meaningful moments, fun moments in business, so it all doesn't feel like a blur too.
Yeah, no, 100% because I kind of look at business, work, and sleep. It's where you're spending most of your time every day, right?
Yeah.
And you know, 10 years from now, when you're a billionaire, I'm gonna think about those moments, good, the bad, the ugly, and what got you there. You can't gloss over it. And I think coming back to that founder mode versus manager mode, part of that article talks about like, the people that are on presentations and slide decks, either they work for VCs being a manager already, or it's someone who was previously a founder who's forgotten their whole story of being a founder. And now they're on stage talking about what perfect looks like. And so you're just like writing notes to try being what perfect looks like, not realizing that they did all this founder mode work which got them to that stage. And so very similar, documenting it actually puts, stronger emphasis on what you've learned and can teach in the future.
Yeah. Even if you're honestly trying to look back at your story, if you're going completely from memory, your memory sucks.
Oh, 100%.
It'll exaggerate moments in a positive or a negative way. It'll completely forget entire chapters where you're like, oh yeah, we did have that chapter, And so
Yeah.
being able to have some touchstones, whether it's a journal entry or a picture or whatever, that lets you come back and accurately remember what it's been like to do what you did, to live how you lived, to overcome. I mean, there's times that you face a challenge and you're like, we've never faced anything like this in our life. We're done.
Yeah.
And then you remember we've
100%.
faced this 3 times. Like, and it hasn't killed us yet. What are we talking about? You know?
Yeah. Is this that big of a deal?
No.
Yeah.
But you forget in the moment, it always feels like the first. We've never felt this way. You're like, no, we felt this way 2 years ago and we still found our way through it, you know?
Yeah.
That's so good. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I want to thank you so much, Robin, for making time, again, for making the product and the company that you did. It has changed my business, and I know is now changing businesses across the world. Becoming a billionaire, many times for some people, it sounds like we would laugh saying that. For you, I do not see that as a funny thing. I see that as a very real possibility because of the value.
Just trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure it out. That's what your part is.
But again, it's because of the value that you've created. That's the coolest part.
Thank you.
And even now getting to know you and hear your founding story, hear your philosophy on life, the way that you approached even your founders at the beginning, I have so much respect for you and the culture and the company you're building. So thank you so much. And please come back sometime.
Thank you for having me, Drew.
Founders, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast and hop into our monthly founder email so we can ensure you stay on the edge of peak performance and massive business results.